Hi guys, this is Melissa Zad for Intu Boxing, and I am delighted to be joined after a very long time, it feels like, by none other than Mr. Eddie Hearn. Eddie, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Obviously, it was a great couple of weeks in America with Taylor Serrano and Canelo Bivol. Had a great show in Milan last Friday, and this week we got Bilbao on Friday night and O2 on Saturday. So, great time to be alive, very excited and motivated, and looking forward to particularly a great show at the O2 this weekend.
Obviously, the travel is sitting really well with you. You look sun-kissed. You look really fresh.
Hides the truth, you know. So yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's when you spend that much time in America, it's actually more difficult to come back on the time zones. But again, it's non-stop. So some nights there's 10 hours sleep, some nights there's 2 hours sleep. But if you add them all up, it's about right, I think.
I think there's an average of about 5 or 6.
Exactly, that'll do.
Firstly, I just want to say I haven't actually caught up with you since I told you that I started your book.
Right, okay.
I finished it. I loved it. Yeah, I particularly like the little roundups at the end with the,
every chapter. Yeah, I think it's when they asked me to write a book, I thought like a book for me is something that you write when you're about to die. You know, my dad's just done one. Hopefully, he doesn't die just yet, but it probably won't be too long. And this was more about just mindset. Really, mindset seems to be a massive thing at the moment, and I think sometimes it can be overthought, and what I tried to do in the book was actually just keep things simple. And I hate it when people sit down and start overanalyzing and worrying and overthinking about certain things that you don't need to. You know, there's a bit in the book about short, medium and long-term goals. I do have medium and long-term goals, but I never really worry or think about them. I just think about the short-term goals, because a lot of the time you sit down with people and go, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do that. And you go, okay, but before you do all that, you've got to do that. And they can't even get over those ones. So keeping things simple is a great way to keep your mind straight. And if you're ever struggling, keeping things simple, even writing down 10 things that you've got to do today to make yourself feel fulfilled that you've had a productive day. Could be getting the shopping, walking the dog, doing a deal, hitting a bag. It doesn't matter what it is. But, you know, short-term focus and not overthinking things is key for me.
I think something I really enjoyed about your book is that it's obviously kind of business focused, but it can so easily be transferred into people's personal lives as well. So I think it gave a really good account of just, you know, having that kind of forward, persistent mindset. So that was really cool to read about. Talking about, obviously, the show on Saturday night, we've just started press week, you know, it's feeling a little bit tense in the room with Boatsi and Richards here at the same time. Fantastic undercards. What are your thoughts about the main event?
I think it's a 50-50. You know, I think a lot of people in boxing feel like it's a 50-50, but obviously the way that we've promoted Joshua Buatsi will make everyone think that he's a favourite in the fight. And maybe he's a slight favourite, but I think Craig pointed it out well in the head-to-head. I think he wanted to make that point. You know, a lot of my losses have been, you know, not in unfair circumstances, but not ideal circumstances. When he boxed Frank Boglione, he did it on a week's notice. You know, when he boxed Dimitri Bivol, it was a massive step up at the time. He had to go and beat Shakan Pitters on an away card, you know, to stop him for the British title. So Boatsi's has had an easier path in the pros, but earned that path because of what he did as an amateur. But, you know, it's a fascinating fight because Boatsi for a long time has been widely regarded as one of the top prospects in world boxing. Sometimes he's been a little bit stop-start, but he's still young, fresh, has all the ability in the world. But the pressure's on him in this fight, and I can't wait to see it.
I mean, what do you make of comments that, you know, obviously keeping your ears to the sound waves, etc. You know, Boatsi's now under the supervision of Virgil Hunter, and he, in his last couple of fights, you know, you've seen differences in his style and his approach. A lot of people feel that his trajectory hasn't been as maybe positive as Craig's has been. What do you make of those kinds of comments?
I think that you know, Josh made a big decision to move his life and go and spend a lot of his year over in San Francisco. He wanted to do that to improve. I think he has improved as well. I think one of the criticisms of Josh is over the years he probably hasn't been as active as he should have been, but it's each to their own, and he's here now. You know, and he's probably one fight away from fighting for a world title, so he's undefeated. You know, he's never really been in any major trouble in a fight. So I don't see how we can really criticise him other than see how he gets on as he steps up the levels.
Obviously, you know, Craig Richards, not in his last fight, his fight before that, he faced Bivol. It was very close on the scorecards. a very, very different performance from Bivol than we saw against Canelo. How do you feel that the general public will now regard Craig after seeing the performance of Bivol against Canelo?
I think his stock's definitely gone up, and styles make fights. I mean, Bivol was incredible against Canelo Alvarez, but, we need to give Craig credit that it was 115, 113 as well. And, the argument is that Bivol at the moment is a level above Buatsi. Some could say that. And Craig had a very good fight with Bivol. So, there's so many different analysis you could take from so many different situations, but certainly Bivol's victory was a good night for the stock of Craig Richards.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's talk a little bit about the rest of the card. What fights are you particularly looking forward to seeing?
Chantel Cameron is, for me, one of the most exciting female fighters in the world. She's defending her unified world title against Bustos, who, the 3 big defeats Bustos has had all on points is against the undisputed champions, Katie Taylor, Jessica McCaskill and Brackhouse. And Chantel will be looking to stop her at the weekend. Babic is in a great fight against Bałski, who's a very, very good fighter. It's great to see Alan Babic at bridgerweight, and maybe he can come to cruiserweight as well, because he looks just so much better. If he wins this fight, he'll fight Oscar Rivas for the world title, which is a massive opportunity. For me, Robbie Davis Jr. against a Molina, very, very tough fight for Robbie Davis against another tough Mexican. We saw him lose to Valenzuela. Ellie Scottney in very, very deep against Cecilia Roman, who obviously Ebony Bridges boxed. Chev Clark on the card as well, Cyrus Patterson, Shiloh De Freitas, John Hedges. So great night of boxing, culminating in a big domestic clash.
I mean, this domestic clash is almost like a fantasy fight that people have been talking about for years that's now coming to fruition.
It's just common sense, isn't it? Like, these fights should be made like that, but they're not, because people go, no, I want to wait for the world title, I want to wait for the world title. It's like, we could have done the same show, but with Buatsi against someone you've never heard of, and Richards against someone you've never heard of. And we've made that mistake plenty of times. But now's the time, now that there's more money in the sport, say, no, we'll pay you up for the fight. Oh, well, I'll take it, but I want this much money. Okay. But at least we go to the show going, what a great fight, rather than turning up saying, who's Buatsi and Richards fighting? So, they're both from Croydon and Crystal Palace. So it is the Battle of Crystal Palace, but it's also the Battle of South London and Britain.
Yeah.
So, and it's got a lot of ramifications at world level as well. So it's going to be interesting.
I think this is one of the things, when you moved over to DAZN, you said about the undercards being really exciting, and that's something that you have delivered on. And we kind of see that when we look at the matchups on Saturday night. That's exactly the kind of feeling that you get. You're excited to go to the boxing that night. Speaking briefly about, obviously, Canelo's loss to Bivol. Bivol put on a fantastic performance, totally neutralised what Canelo has in the arsenal. What's next for Canelo?
I think it's 2 things. It's the rematch with Dimitri Bivol, or it's the trilogy fight with Gennady Golovkin, and then the rematch. He'll definitely rematch Dimitri Bivol, because he wouldn't be able to get over that otherwise. But we're looking to speak to him this week and sort of finalise his plans. He will fight September 17th, and that will be Bivol or Gennady Golovkin.
The Joshua Usyk rematch, where are we with that? Is that going to be enough?
Close. I mean, next week you should get an official announcement on that. July 23rd in the Middle East is a front runner. We're finalising contracts, and it's 9 weeks out. So next week, I believe you'll get an official announcement.
Very exciting time. So finally from me, obviously there's been lots of rumours on the soundwaves about Tyson Fury's retirement. Actually, speaking to Frank earlier, he said that he thinks that if Usyk wins the rematch, Tyson will retire, and if Joshua wins it, he won't.
Yeah, maybe. I'd like to see Tyson Fury fight the winner of that fight. I believe Anthony Joshua will beat Usyk, but I would like to see Fury fight the winner for undisputed, and then he can hang his gloves up. But we'll see what happens.
Thank you so much for your time, Eddie. I appreciate it.